We've been spending most of our lives living in a striker's paradise. Welcome to Fight Night Picks. If this is the first time you joined in, we certainly appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. You can find him on Instagram as well as the Twitterverse at Matt Allen FNP. Now, guys, I mean, listen, you know and love Edson Barboza. Maybe this is the first time that you've even heard of Giga Chikadze. This guy has been setting the world on fire since he's joined the UFC. His last loss was to a really, really tough out, and we'll get to it later on. But I mean, for Giga Chikadze, just continues to win 13-2. You look at the losses. I mean, he lost really early on to Gil Guardado back in 2015. He lost to Austin Springer on Dana White's Contender Series, but in the UFC, wins over Brandon Davis, Jamall Emmers, Irwin Rivera, Omar Morales, who's a great striker, Jamie Simmons, a good wrestler, and Cub Swanson his last time out. For Edson Barboza, this guy's main evented. This guy's had giant fights. He's won giant fights. He's a walking performance bonus. And yes, he did feature a dirty little losing streak. And yes, he did have to move down from 155 pounds, where a lot of people thought it's over. It really is. Like, this is the beginning of the end for Edson Barboza. But just like his fellow countryman, Jose Aldo, he moves down. And yeah, were there some growing pains? Sure. He fought Dan Ige. He lost by split decision. Did I have him winning that fight? Yeah. Did I have him winning against Paul Felder? Yeah, I did. But since then, he beat Makwan Amirkhani pillar to post. And then he finished Shane Burgos, who has some of the best boxing and striking in MMA. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, because his mix of power and speed is something that you don't often see at 145 pounds. Edson Barboza looks amazing and polished. Giga Chikadze, just one of those great pure strikers who really picks his shots and his times at excellent spots. I know I just kind of continued on what I had said before, but a former glory kickboxer in his own right, training out of King's MMA with Rafael Cordero. I mean, listen, he wouldn't be training Mike Tyson if he wasn't a good coach, right? But King's is definitely one of those great gyms out there in MMA. Barboza coming out of American Top Team, likewise there. I love this fight, Matt. I know you're excited about it. Everybody out there is excited about it. So what can you tell us about this one?
Everybody's excited for this fight, right? If you're not excited for this fight, you don't care about MMA, because Edson Barboza is probably the most exciting fighter in the UFC. There, I said it. Pound for pound, Edson Barboza delivers more entertainment than anybody else in the roster. And there might be other fighters with higher significant strike per minutes, but we don't judge all significant strikes the same way. The significance of the strikes of Edson Barboza are absurd. He hurts people when he fights them. Like, there's no Jake Shieldsing when Edson Barboza fights. You have to worry that maybe he's going to shoot a double leg and wait in half guard. If he does shoot a double leg takedown, A, he's got really good ground and pound from top position. It's kind of weird, but he is really good at ground and pound. And B, he's a great boxer too. This is something that I've got to get out of the way, because a lot of people here are going to say, oh, Giga Chikadze, he's got the glory background, so he must be the better striker than Edson Barboza. No, you're very wrong, because Edson Barboza is a unique MMA striker. He's built his game basically around not only his MMA IQ, but he's built his game around knowing whether or not his opponent's going to be moving to their left or to their right. The cool thing about Edson Barboza is that he sets up his boxing with his kicks. A lot of people do it the other way around, where, oh, I'm going to throw a jab or right hand, then I end it with a kick. Edson Barboza starts chopping your legs down so that you're slower when you're boxing with him. Because the interesting thing about Edson Barboza is that exactly, their hands come down. He throws a great left hook to the body. He's someone who always goes to the body, whether it's with his kicks or with his hands. And something I've said a lot about Edson Barboza, and I used to get a lot of flack for it, but finally after the Shane Burgos fight, people are starting to agree with me. He's one of the best pure boxers in MMA. People look at the kicks and they forget about the punches. There's The Ringer put a video called The Astonishing Evolution of Kevin Durant. And they have a quote in there that says, because he's so good offensively, people don't actually look at how good he is defensively. Like, he's good at everything. It's just he's so good at scoring, it kind of overshadows the fact that he's good at everything else. Edson Barboza's kicks are so good that they overshadow the fact that he outboxed Dan Hooker, that he was able to out-combo and outlast Shane Burgos. Like, Edson Barboza is that special kind of striker on the feet. And it's really interesting. Even when you go through the losing streak, I think we can both agree the Dan Ige fight he probably should have won. Yes, he gets taken down a few times, and he has control on the mat. Great job to Dan Ige. But on the feet, it's not even close. Edson Barboza hits Dan Ige with some like overhand elbows. He's hitting him with overhand rights. Like, he drops Dan Ige every round of that fight, and the judges still found a way to give him the loss. The thing about Giga Chikadze is he's not really a power striker. I know that's weird, and that might be a little controversial because the Cub Swanson fight. And I went into the Cub Swanson fight saying this. You were sitting on a bit of a fence. Cub Swanson's a good striker. I remember vividly saying Giga Chikadze is going to get him out of there early. Like, I didn't think that fight was going to be competitive at all because Cub Swanson is really, really far past the hill. He's not the same durable fighter that he used to be, to where he can eat 7 shots just to give out 2 more. And he's always kind of been susceptible to the body kicks. So if you're going to beat Cub Swanson, you're probably going to beat him via a body kick. So I feel like everything just kind of lined up perfectly for Chikadze to look so good in that fight. Because the double-edged sword to Chikadze's game is he had a close fight with Jamall Emmers. Like a close fight with Jamall Emmers. And I can tell you this for free. Edson Barboza would knock out Jamall Emmers. I don't think they would have a very competitive fight whatsoever. I think Jamall Emmers would shoot for takedowns like Beneil Dariush and probably end up on a poster similar to Beneil Dariush. This is the thing with Giga Chikadze. He has good but not great power, and he can get out-volumed himself. I don't like the fact that he's going to be at a disadvantage with the output against a guy like Edson Barboza, because with most guys, Giga Chikadze will be the more powerful striker at range. I don't think he will be against Edson Barboza. And the interesting thing is, even if Barboza isn't having success at the kicking range, because the other thing I will say is Chikadze checks leg kicks better than most guys Edson Barboza has fought in the past. But the flip side of that is Edson Barboza is the fastest switch kick to the body I've ever seen. And that is a direct quote from Joe Rogan, but it's also very true. He's someone who goes to the body and the legs. We say this a lot. Guys have those like water in the basement, to quote Teddy Atlas. And most of the time it's I shoot a lot of leg kicks or I go to the body a lot. Most guys don't do both. Edson Barboza is somebody who will do both. And I think that's going to be a big factor in this fight.
At Fight Night Picks, we used to be maybe too heavy into the numbers, then at some points not heavy enough into the numbers, Matt. I want to get into the numbers because you talked about the volume. This could be deceiving. Striking accuracy for both of these guys, 44% clip. Striking defense for Barboza, 59% clip. For Giga Chikadze, 60% clip. Now, again, Barboza's been around for a very long time.
Way better guys.
Those metrics are still cool. Barboza lands 4.16 significant strikes per minute. The UFC average is 3.31. Chikadze lands 3.55. So you got about 0.6 of an extra shot per minute from Barboza than you have from Chikadze. The absorb per minute stat. Chikadze absorbs 2.67. That's below the UFC average, which is 3.31. Barboza absorbs 4.15. But Chikadze's...
He fought Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Chikadze's output doesn't match the absorbed per minute stat for Barboza, and Barboza's throwing and accepting damage at a 0.01 clip, like difference, which
Kevin Lee.
You don't love to see it. However, what I'm saying, the volume is definitely in the favor of Edson Barboza in this one. And again, takedowns, call it negligible. I would think if Edson Barboza takes the fight to the mat, then there's going to be issues. And if you remember, Giga Chikadze's last win against Austin Springer, what did he do? He's fighting a guy with a ground game, and Giga goes for the takedowns and tries to, he was going for omoplatas from his guard. Like, he was trying to get out of spots with submissions. He was trying to be an MMA fighter instead of an MMA striker, which is what he is. So it was really weird to see that. Ultimately, he loses that fight. Now he's taking on one of the best MMA strikers that we have out there. And I know I said that a little bit about Shane Burgos, but it still stands. Lots of power, lots of speed, 145-pound division. Matt, Barboza open a -150 favorite. He's a -115 right now on best fight odds. Chikadze open a +130. He's a -106. Call it 105. Over on Tapology, 1,030 votes, 62% Barboza, 38% Chikadze. Fight Night Picks YouTube community tab, 854 total votes, 61% Barboza, 39% Chikadze. Hey, that's a difference of 1% between Tapology and the Fight Night Picks fans. I want to know down below who people are picking. Do you have the fighter out of Georgia, Giga Chikadze out of Kings MMA? Do you have Brazil's Edson Barboza out of American Top Team? What are we saying here, Matt?
I can see a universe where Giga Chikadze is really, really light on his feet, moves around a lot, and tries to make Edson Barboza miss. The problem, though, is that Edson Barboza, similar to Dustin Poirier, and I have to bring this up, will huff and puff 30 seconds into the fight. Looks exhausted after throwing one kick. Does Edson Barboza carry power into the third round, Craig? Yeah. And he doesn't just have power in the third round. He keeps his speed. That's the most important thing. Edson Barboza can work at this insanely high work rate, be on the receiving end of takedowns, be getting damaged for minutes on end, but he still has that one shot in his back pocket. And the thing about Giga Chikadze is he's only fought one, I will say, like, proven UFC, like, good main event caliber fighter, and that's Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson, he still has some tread left on the tires. I don't think he's the same fighter who was in the top 5, but, he can go out there and have fun fights.
Not the same guy that fought Artem Lobov, right?
No, exactly. Not the same guy who fought Doo Ho Choi. No, like, he's not that guy. Edson Barboza, and the problem with some of those numbers that you brought up is that Edson Barboza's strength of schedule is like almost nobody else in the UFC. It's like Rafael dos Anjos and Edson Barboza, and that's pretty much it. Like, they only fight top level guys, and people look at Barboza's record at 22-9, and they're like, that's kind of salty. When you've been fighting the top 10 guys in 2 weight classes your entire career, you're gonna go on a losing streak here and there. I really do think Edson Barboza is the superior striker in this fight, and I think he's gonna prove it. Like, against Shane Burgos, it's interesting. Shane Burgos was able to put him into boxing combinations, whereas Shane Burgos' strength, and you would think, okay, on the feet, if Barboza has any weakness, it would be in that range. He beat Shane Burgos at what Shane Burgos does best. I think that's good enough to beat Giga Chikadze as well. I'm looking a lot for the body shots from Edson Barboza. I think those are going to be a very big factor in this fight. But I'll admit, this is going to be a phenomenal fight for as long as it lasts. But the official prediction's Barboza.
This should be a great one, Matt. I don't believe we've been in disagreement on any of the picks throughout this card, so that doesn't happen very long. But I also have Edson Barboza in this one. I think Giga Chikadze has as good a chance as ever. And this is one where, okay, we're beating the guys that we should beat. Now, a win over Edson Barboza really vaults you up into the top 10, up towards the top 5. You might end up with one of those tests where, hey, is it going to be a Josh Emmett coming off of like a long layoff? Is it going to be a guy that can wrestle a little bit? Would it be like a Chad Mendez after BKFC? Could that fight happen? I don't know. But I do really like this one. But again, I think the volume and the pressure from Edson Barboza, the leg kicks, the body work, all the work that he can do. And if it goes to the mat, I've got Barboza in this one as well. So both of us going, yes.
Okay, if Edson Barboza wins this fight, he has to fight either Yair Rodriguez or Max Holloway next, right?
He fights the loser of that fight.
Okay, he has to fight one of those two guys because that would be fight of the year. That's something I feel very confident in saying.
He fights the loser of that fight. Matt, I can't wait for this weekend's card. I am really excited for it. We have the Ultimate Fighter finale. You've got Battle taking on Urbina. You got Tercios taking on Highstand. Petrosky's taking on Gilmore. There's all sorts of great. Kevin Lee is taking on D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. You're not going to want to miss any of that. 2 hours before the prelims. Fight Night Picks kicks. You can't miss that either. We get a chance to look at the weigh-ins, offer up our final picks and predictions. Make sure you check out our second channel. We had a video that dropped. We opened some 2021 Topps Heritage, all sorts of great stuff over there. Check it out at 15-minute card breaks. It's great when Matt freezes as I'm doing the intro for our main event video, but overall, it should be a great one. You're not going to want to miss it. And as we always say, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.